what the fuck are we doing? Like, what is the point of this? And it's easy to kind of get going down that kind of a road. I guess.
Yeah, that's the old voice that we've talked about so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I would say that the conditions were pretty ideal for that voice to to come back in, and they have for me too in the last couple of weeks, without having gone through what you have been through, which was I know that you'll probably I know that you probably wouldn't describe it as a trauma, but like a pretty disruptive, uncertain, freaky thing to have to go through. But for me, it's not only the presence of that negative voice that is a problem, but it's then my other voice that criticizes me for allowing that voice in. And that's some of the cascade that can happen, is that we I think quite understandably there's negativity there, or there's like a feeling of hopelessness or angst. And angst was one of the words that I wrote down to talk about today. And is that angst warranted, or what can we do about it? But I think for me, it's always most problematic when I'm like critical of myself, and when angst leads to hopelessness. And that
Yeah.
hopelessness, I think, comes from criticizing myself for being filled with angst.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we got to ask ourselves what we're getting out of feeling like you're experiencing angst or uncertainty about the future is a natural thing that humans have been experiencing since the dawn of time. What are we getting out of that right now under these circumstances? Experiencing angst. I think there's
great question.
Can you see? Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, do you know the answer to that question?
Well, I think there's an answer from an evolutionary point of view, in that anxiety, angst, anything that maintains your attention, whether it's on a negative or a positive thing, it's usually a survival mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the people who are more anxious about the tigers that were lurking around in the forest outside of the camp, as opposed to the people who are all relaxed and not worrying about it, the anxious ones probably survived and passed on those genetics more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
So there, it's just under these circumstances where there's basically nothing we can do other than, try to properly or process this kind of anxiety or angst in a healthy way, so that we can be maybe of service to somebody who's not processing it in a healthy way, and just to try to help other people out. I guess I don't know, what is there any value in it at this point, or should we just be doing our best to ignore it and not chastising ourselves for going down that road?
Well, I think definitely for me, it's harmful when I chastise myself for it. And I do that. I was doing that this morning. So it's a regular thing for me. And chastising myself for it is never helpful. It's more helpful if I talk about it and get to like the specifics of why. I think you're right when you were talking about the roots of angst, that it's about like self-protection,
Mm-hmm.
and or anxiety or uncertainty. So talking about it is most helpful. Ruminating in it alone is least helpful, for sure.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
That being alone, and that was the other kind of interesting variable, was that my partner and her kids had decided a couple months ago that they were going to do a trip to PEI. So the way it worked out was that when we basically, as soon as we were allowed back in the house, the airports opened and they decided they're going to take the trip, because why not, right? Get out of this area, get some fresh air, whatever. And that's all fine and good. But it basically put me here by myself with COVID, dealing with like, just kind of trying to keep shit in one piece, and with next to no energy, and then nobody to bounce any of these kind of thoughts off or whatever, or at least not using the resources I have properly, very much like just isolating and trying to sleep it off, and then it's funny how fast the mind starts to like spiral inwards.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, no, this is all bullshit. What's the point? Fuck it. And I don't care. I really don't care. I'm done with everything. Like, I'll just, I know that I can't make a proper decision when I'm in that, at least I've reached that level of understanding of myself where I can listen to that rhetoric and then not ignore it, but kind of be like, yes, I see that you're having a freak out here. But that doesn't mean that we're going to go out and change a whole bunch of things or make a bunch of big decisions because you're not thinking rationally right now. And that's, so at least I've got that going for me.
Yeah. So this leads to a brief, I'll just share a brief example of where I've been at, and then I'll pose this question that I posed to our group, our peer support group, because it's a conversation that kind of came out of your story with the fires and my experience. So I have been working towards starting this new job, and I'm starting this new course as well at the same time. Both are online and both require me to learn stuff on the computer that I haven't ever done before. And it's really putting myself out there again as not in the recovery community, because I've become very comfortable and confident in the recovery community, but to be a professional again outside of that community. And just like, who am I now? Because I'm not doing it as a nurse. I'm not doing it as in a peer support context. I'm doing it as a educator. So that's
which
sort
is
of
a great role for you, I think.
I think it is too, and I think it'll be cool. But it has created lots of self-doubt and some angst. And so anyway, so over the last couple of weeks ago, when the smoke was really at its worst down, and all of the smoke from the interior of our province and had sort of comes down and settles in the valley where I live here, and certainly is not as bad as what you had up there, but it was pretty soupy smoke. And so myself and my partner and my family took 5 kids to the PNE, which for anyone who's in the United States or listening elsewhere, that's like the Pacific National Exhibition. It's a big fair in Vancouver, and we took 5 kids, all under the age of 9, one being my baby, all to this fair on a day where the smoke was settling down in Vancouver, and
it's a suicide mission.
It kind of was. Well, air quality wise, for sure. And I had already told myself that I wasn't into it and I didn't really want to go. Like, it wasn't my idea of a great time, but I understand why it was for the kids, and I have great memories of doing that as a kid. So there was a part of me that rationally knew this will be a good thing for everybody and fun in all likelihood. But there was a voice in me that was just like, just kill me. I do not want to do this. Going into that, like, let's just get through this. Yeah. And I've been to big events since COVID, but there haven't been that many. But I've been back to some hockey games and to some things like that where there's a lot of people. But I don't think I could name a more overstimulating sensory-wise situation than a big fair like that. Like, it's just bombarding your senses. And we get in the gate, and we got our 5 kids with us, and we'd been there for like 10 minutes, and I felt like I was being choked. All of a sudden we're standing there, and I had this 5 seconds where my 4-year-old just walked around behind me, and I just lost sight of him for a couple seconds. no more than that.
Mhm.
And I'd already been feeling this angst in my body, already been feeling a bit anxious about the day, and all of a sudden it just felt like